On this episode of Unbillable, I'm back in the car, I'm sick of dealing with speed bumps, and we talk about why this HOA sucks. We're back. Hey, thanks for joining me on another episode of Unbillable. It's lightly raining here, which is basically the equivalent of a torrential downpour wherever you are, because it just doesn't rain here. Even in the rain, I'm everybody's favorite California licensed attorney, Amir Afsar, and I truly appreciate you for joining me on this episode of Unbillable. Today, we're going to try to do something a little bit different. I'm actually on my way to a property that is owned by a client. It is currently the subject of a code enforcement claim where the city is suing my client for failure to keep the property in compliance with the code. What we're gonna do is drive over there. That's what we're doing right now. And when we get there, I'll bring you out of the car with me and we'll take a look at the property and talk about what exactly is going on in this dispute. So let's go for a ride. There's a guard gate. Let's see if we can get past the private security. How you doing? I'm here for a property inspection at Amir Afsar. I'm the attorney for the property owner. Of course we're in. All right, so we've made it to my client's property, and admittedly the front yard is not exactly the most beautiful yard on the block. But the point is, does this yard give rise to criminal prosecution? Does the yard look so bad that you think the police should be getting involved? That's really the question here. So let's take a look around. Well, there's nothing I can say about this tree. This tree is definitely not in very good shape. If you look over here at these palm trees too, I don't know if I can get a shot of the top. They're not exactly well trimmed. But again, if you look across the street, trees pretty much look the same across the street at that property. Although across the street and one over, those palm trees are properly trimmed. Again, it doesn't matter if your neighbors are in compliance or not. What matters is whether you're in compliance or not. And clearly these trees, such as the one behind me here, that one is clearly not trimmed. That's a violation of the code, and we're gonna have to fix that as well. There's no grass growing over here on the side yard. You're probably gonna be required to put in some desert scape or some grass in order to meet code compliance as well. I'm gonna have to make sure the client steps up and gets that done, put some flowers in these flower beds that you see directly behind me. It's just a matter of maintenance and upkeep. Now, let's make something clear. It's not as though my client wanted her yard to fall into a state of disrepair. This is a rental property, and the former tenant stopped paying the landscaper without notifying the property owner, and the property's gone months and months and months without landscape, leading to the state of disrepair you see behind us. Unfortunately, with my client not being a local resident, the warnings and notices that went on the front door were never actually providing notice to her, and the problem grew worse and worse, leading to the 4-count misdemeanor complaint that's been filed against her. Well, looking right past me, you can see that the fence has been destroyed as well. That's something that we're certainly going to have to repair. Well, it's about 100 degrees outside, so I'm going to get going back in my car. Once we get in the car, we'll talk about why I have such a problem with code enforcement when it comes to this property. It has nothing to do with the fact that the property is not in good condition. I admit that the property is not in great condition, but I still have a problem with the way they're enforcing this against the property owner. All right, so now that we're back in the car, I can talk a little bit about why I have a problem with the police involvement in the enforcement of these code violations. You see, the home that we're sitting outside of right now is inside a gated community, a homeowners association. Homeowners associations have their own set of rules and regulations that homeowners must comply with. These rules may be with regard to anything from the paint of the walls, the color of the doors, ways that you're allowed to remodel the appearance of your home, all the way down to, of course, the landscape. And there can be no question that the home we're sitting outside of, the home that we just walked around, is clearly in violation of those CC&Rs. With a homeowners association, it is the homeowners association itself that should be taking steps to enforce enforce compliance with their CC&Rs. In other words, you're paying a monthly fee to the homeowners association, and they enforce compliance amongst all your neighbors. In this situation, even with my client's property falling behind and not meeting those standards, it's the homeowners association that should be enforcing these standards of conduct. It's the homeowners association that should be threatening to fine the client and taking steps to make sure that this homeowner, my client, remains in compliance with their CC&Rs. Unfortunately, however, this homeowners association has decided to take a different approach. And if you follow me through this, you might see why I have such a big problem with it. You see, every month my client pays her HOA dues to the association. And instead of the HOA using those dues to enforce the rules and regulations, they're simply turning this over to the police. So instead of you getting, let's just say, a letter from a group of your neighbors telling you that you're falling behind and need to comply, they're calling the cops on you. You're paying money into the homeowners association so that they turn around and call the police on you? That's not how this is supposed to work. So then the police show up and they enforce the code of the city, which I don't have a problem with enforcement. Again, I have a problem with the manner of enforcement. The police leave a notice on the door and that notice never gets responded to. Again, the tenant terminated the landscaper without ever notifying the homeowner. So the homeowner is completely unaware, living out of state, that their property is actually not being maintained to the standards that they're used to. As a matter of fact, a second notice was placed on the door in this instance, and again, that notice never got to my client. In fact, it wasn't until a 4-count misdemeanor complaint was filed in the criminal court that my client even got notification of this thing. And as you might suspect, my client's not a criminal, has no desire to be involved in the criminal justice system, and is immediately trying to take any and all steps in order to comply with the code. They've hired me to notify the district attorney who's prosecuting this 4-count misdemeanor against my client for failure to trim palm trees, for failure to have grass growing in the front yard, for failure to have proper landscape. And while I agree it's important that we all maintain our homes and keep things up to the proper landscape, it's not necessarily the best use of tax dollars, in my opinion, when there's already a homeowners association in place that should be enforcing compliance. So I can tell you, when it comes to this property, my client doesn't want any trouble, right? And so what we're doing is we're taking steps to put the property back in compliance. I came today to take a look at the property to determine what we need to do to make the district attorney drop the misdemeanor charges and understand that we're going to bring a landscaper in, we're going to trim the trees, we're going to plant new flowers, we're going to put in the grass, whatever needs to be done to be in compliance with the code. All right, as we slowly make our way out of this homeowners association, I just want to say there are some pros, there are some cons to living in a homeowners association. In my opinion, one of the biggest one is these freaking speed bumps. If you find yourself on the board of a homeowners association, please take it easy with the speed bumps. They're really not needed like every 2 houses. We just went over one, and here I am already slowing down for the next one. If you like this video, you got something to add or something to say, be sure to hit the like button and comment below. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to subscribe to keep up to date with me and everything going on with our vlog Unbillable, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to us. And with that, we appreciate you being here. We thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Unbillable. Woo!